The shadow of past events still lingers, a stark reminder of how quickly trust can erode. My fiancé and I, after 4 years of a deep, evolving connection, were finally engaged. Our story began simply. Mutual friends brought us together, and casual hangouts blossomed into a profound relationship, solidifying our commitment to a shared future. A beautiful promise, or so it seemed. However, an unsettling tension subtly emerged from her closest circle. She possessed a tight-knit group of 3 friends, 2 men, one her cousin, and a woman, who had been inseparable since childhood. Before our romance truly began, I'd met them and they appeared genuinely pleasant, even fun to be around. There were easy laughs and flowing conversation, but everything shifted when I returned as her boyfriend. The atmosphere chilled. I felt their judgment, a palpable scrutiny. I understood, of course, that a friend's test was an inevitable rite of passage for any new partner. I was prepared, ready to demonstrate my sincerity. Yet, after 4 years, what I hadn't anticipated was the audacious confrontation they would orchestrate, specifically questioning my family's wedding gifts. This line they shouldn't have crossed. This direct challenge, a brazen act of interference, pushed me to a breaking point. It became clear that the real test, far from merely enduring their initial scrutiny, was about to begin, threatening to unravel not just my relationship with them, but the entire foundation of our planned wedding. The stage was set for a dramatic and heart-wrenching unraveling. I am still being tested. A constant scrutiny lingers, a lingering trial. Let me explain. My girlfriend, so sweet, caring, empathetic, and sensitive, carries scars from past relationships. We've spoken of it briefly. Her distress halts my questions. From what I gather, while never physically abused, her past dynamics were toxic, perhaps involving emotional abuse. Given this, I understand her friend's protective nature. Early in our dating, as seriousness grew, her friends always found ways to, subtly yet forcefully, remind me of my place. They'd whisk her away if we were together, barge into our dates. She shared everything, so they knew our plans. My only respite moments alone with her came through surprise getaways, but how many of those can one realistically manage? My patience finally frayed. I reached my saturation point and we talked. She astonishingly had a blind spot regarding their intrusions, never truly noticing what they were doing. After that conversation, things were not quite right. After when I finally illuminated the problem, she witnessed their disrespect firsthand. The next time their offense erupted, her fury was instant. She confronted them, voice firm, threatening to sever communication. A brief bickering ensued, but they relented, offering apologies, to her, never to me, leaving a bitter taste. Still, our dynamic shifted, improving immensely from that moment. Now I reflect on the recent past. My heart knows she is my soulmate. My love for her is boundless, an immense force within me. While our culture bypasses ring proposals, I knew she yearned for that gesture. I carefully selected a ring, an ancestral heirloom from my beloved grandmother. It's just one exquisite component of a grander jewelry set. Our sacred tradition dictates that when a new bride joins the family, elders welcome her with precious heirloom jewelry. I am certain my grandmother will present her with the complete matching set as a cherished wedding gift. My parents and other revered family elders will also bestow similar, meaningful tokens of our heritage. Honestly, these traditional sets do possess a significant grandeur. I suppose what I'm trying to express is that by modern aesthetic standards, they might even be perceived as rather ostentatious, perhaps gaudy. Nevertheless, my girlfriend instantly adored the ring. Her genuine affection for it shone through, even though it's quite unlike more conventional engagement pieces. She saw its true value, transcending mere trends. A shadow fell over our engagement, cast by these heirloom rings. I knew she'd never wear the elaborate sets. Her style was gracefully simple. Yet I truly believed gold was an invaluable asset, even if unworn they were hers, a tangible resource for any future need. My girlfriend, aware of my intentions, maintained careful silence, never voicing a concern. Then, a week ago, a sudden, unwelcome intrusion. Her trio of friends appeared unannounced while my girlfriend was away. They immediately launched into a scathing critique, declaring me utterly selfish. They claimed that, under the false pretense of tradition, I was coercing my girlfriend into accepting unwanted gifts. I reminded them sharply of our bridal registry, meticulously arranged, where many family members, friends, and colleagues had already thoughtfully selected items. I declared with unwavering conviction that my family's gifts to my fiancé were absolutely none of their concern. Their aggression escalated dramatically. They cruelly asserted I was no different from her manipulative past partners, accusing me of emotional abuse and insidious gaslighting. The hypocrisy stung deeply. My girlfriend had previously asked me to make her 2 male friends my groomsmen, a request I had, for her happiness, gladly granted, my brother already designated as my best man. But after their venomous tirade, I looked them in the eye and told them then that their places in our wedding, and frankly in our lives, were irrevocably gone. My decision was final. They were no longer my groomsmen. When my girlfriend returned, I recounted the entire incident. She agreed. Her friends had no right to comment on my family's gifts, clarifying she did not share their cruel opinions. Yet a deep chasm opened. She felt I overreacted, that I went too far, mercilessly removing her closest friends from our wedding party. Her vision for our special day, always including all three by her side, was now shattered by my uncompromising choice. I grapple with a gnawing question: was I truly wrong? Was I the villain? A quiet doubt, echoing others' thoughts, asked if her past relationships were genuinely abusive, or if these very friends, the ones I had cast out, had subtly gaslighted her into believing they were. This troubling thought plagues me. Uncovering the truth feels impossible. She refuses to discuss those truly painful memories. The only other way would be to invade her privacy, to snoop. I simply cannot betray her trust. The pain of this rift is immense. To be a groomsman is a profound honor, a sacred responsibility, not a casual rite of passage for friends. This principle I believe they failed to grasp. This entire ordeal, this sudden fracture in our pre-wedding joy, leaves me reeling, desperate to understand if this divide can ever truly heal. Their profound disrespect cut deep. My chosen groomsmen, whom I believed were closest, proved utterly unworthy. Their actions, unforgivable, showed blatant disregard for our bond. I knew with unshakable certainty they couldn't stand beside me on our sacred day. My resolve solidified. I would not have them. The outpouring of support during that agonizing time was a genuine solace, affirming my decision. I acted swiftly. My cousin and a cherished friend were contacted. Their eager acceptance a balm to my spirit. Their presence will now infuse our ceremony with authentic warmth and joy. With that painful chapter closed, my fiancé and I focused on other wedding preparations, specifically gifts. We discussed family heirlooms. I explained only my grandmother, parents, mother's brother, and father's sister would present these traditional pieces. All other guests would use our wedding registry. I wanted her unburdened. I offered an alternative. If the jewelry wasn't her preference, those elders would pick from our registry. If declined, heirlooms would await my sister. Her response melted my anxieties. She admitted the jewelry wasn't her usual style, yet found them undeniably beautiful. As an Indian, our family events are tradition-rich. She navigates them with grace. Her thoughtfulness truly impresses. Our journey, blending cultures, thrives on profound mutual respect. Our wedding, free from past shadows, will be a pure celebration of our love, building a joyous future. I've been wrestling with a difficult truth, a silent battle threatening our future. My girlfriend possesses a natural grace in a sari. She looks gorgeous, carrying it with effortless elegance. She often explains that post-marriage, these heirloom jewels would find their perfect place at formal events, never appearing out of sync. I believe her when she expresses genuine affection for her engagement ring and her comfort with receiving family heirlooms as wedding presents. She shared how she'd openly discussed these gifts with her friends, even showing them pictures of the exquisite sets she was to inherit. She never, not once, voiced any objection. Her friends simply assumed her disinterest, believing such ornate pieces aren't her usual style. This misguided perception became a subtle yet potent point of tension. It was then I registered a stark, unsettling warning from an outsider. A concerned voice articulated the problem with painful clarity. My girlfriend is ensnared between me and her three devoted friends. These friends, in turn, are desperate to avoid losing her to me, to our impending shared life. The stern counsel was clear. I must stand my ground. Unless she unequivocally clarifies the boundaries and nature of her relationship with these women, our marriage, it was warned, would be irrevocably doomed. This truth, delivered with blunt force, resonated deeply, shaking my very foundation. I know with heavy certainty that if I pushed her to make an ultimate choice, she would, in all likelihood, pick me. I use "in all likelihood" only because absolute certainty feels like an illusion in life's complex tapestry. But the crushing weight of that decision would undeniably break her heart. My deepest fear is that forcing such a choice would irrevocably shatter a part of her, and perhaps a significant part of us, leaving scars that might never truly heal. A gnawing fear has settled deep within my soul. I constantly worry my fiancé might one day resent me, blaming me for the demise of her cherished childhood friendships. The thought is a heavy burden. Someone suggested that perhaps after our wedding, these friends might simply fade away, a quiet departure from our lives. They also pressed on the topic of my culture. questioning if my different race, being Indian while my fiancé and two of her closest friends are white, might be the root of the hostility. Could racism be what's truly happening here, they asked, sensing these friends are picking on me. Perhaps, they mused, her previous boyfriend simply put these friends in their place, or her other relationships weren't as toxic as mine seems to be in their eyes. Beyond choosing her friends, they probed, did my fiancé have any other flaws? I am Indian, yes, a different race, but I truly don't believe race is the core issue. While my fiancé, her cousin, and the male friend are white, the sole girl in their tight-knit group is biracial. Furthermore, our wider social circle embraces people from many different backgrounds. Diversity has never been a problem there. Her three stooges, as I've privately come to call them, have always given me the cold shoulder. It's a persistent chill, a palpable distance, yet I've never genuinely felt racist undertones from their behavior. Despite this ongoing friction with her core trio, I am thankful to be on excellent terms with her family. Her parents and her siblings, I admit, have always been warm and welcoming. Her work friends and colleagues also seemed nice. I know my fiancé, like any person, has flaws, but I question how fixating on those could ever truly help. My world fractured on July 26, 2025, just 3 days later. I confronted an impossible dilemma. Was I wrong to remove my fiancé's friends from our wedding party? Their challenge about my family's gifts left me utterly shaken. This will be a long story, so I decided to post this crucial update separately. My first narrative detailed the origin. First, my deepest thanks to all who shared their kind support and for the insightful comments that eventually led to complex things getting cleared up. I knew asking for outside advice was a double-edged sword. While many comments were incredibly helpful, truly encouraging me to seek much-needed answers, others, sadly, were far more divisive. But I knew what I was signing up for when I posted, and I accept that as part and parcel of the broader experience. These past few days have been nothing short of an emotional, chaotic roller coaster, leaving me drained. I kept quiet for too long, but now the full truth demands to be told. So much has transpired recently, yet one absolute certainty anchors me. My girlfriend and I share a profound, unbreakable love. She is a genuinely good person, her heart pure. I now realize my original post unintentionally cast her in a negative light. The painful truth is, while her trusting nature made her incredibly naive regarding her so-called friends, those manipulative stooges, and she's often been easily swayed, she consistently stood up for me when it truly mattered. Her compassionate heart has always been in the right place. Indeed, she voiced her belief that I overreacted by decisively removing those troublesome individuals from our wedding party. She conveyed disappointment that her three companions would no longer participate. Crucially, she unequivocally agreed her friends had no right to invade our home, nor insult me. They held no authority to make false statements on her behalf about the jewelry, claims she knew were untrue. After I changed the groomsman to my trusted cousin and loyal friend, she steadfastly supported my decision, never once attempting to insist on their return. I often wish she'd finally cut ties with them, these friends bringing only discord. After their latest transgression, she didn't immediately confront the trio. She's simply not a confrontational person. She cannot craft a counterargument on the spot, her mind races, words always fail. So when she anticipates an explosive conversation charged with raw emotion, she meticulously plans. She writes down every point she wants to make, anticipating their every defense. What if XYZ? How to respond? Her method is rigorous, ensuring she's armed with words ready for battle. This preparation is vital when dealing with that particular trio. In such fraught situations, it's always her alone, defending me and our precious relationship against a united front, 3 against 1. I've tried to step in to offer support, but my disdain for these individuals runs so deep it's barely an understatement. When I get involved, their conversations inevitably devolve into a bitter, draining verbal spat, amplifying her stress and sorrow. It's a painful truth. She has, time and again, missed the most glaring red flags concerning her supposed friends. She overlooks their constant disrespect, their insidious negativity. She still holds onto hope for them, a hope I can no longer share. This pattern of devotion to the unworthy, this constant forgiving. The consequences are clear, yet she keeps missing the undeniable truth of their character. I've agonized over explaining this, but some truths are difficult, even painful, to accept. Red flags in isolation rarely define someone as inherently bad. From her perspective, these individuals weren't just friends. They were the very foundation of her world, the unwavering backbone of her social life. They'd been with her since childhood, steadfast companions she always saw as profoundly supportive, fiercely protective, and genuinely caring. When you're intertwined with someone for so long, recognizing their toxic influence becomes an agonizing, soul-crushing task, almost impossible to confront. To us outsiders, her blindness might appear willful, a stubborn refusal to face harsh reality. But I understood. When you're caught inside that suffocating bubble, seeing clearly is a brutal, unattainable luxury that few can afford. I'd addressed this in a previous comment, but as the same inquiries resurfaced, I felt compelled to lay it out here again in detail. We had in fact discussed the gifts at length before. She even shared intimate details, showing her friends pictures of the beautiful jewelry and speaking openly about the sentiment behind each present. Never once did she express dislike, never a whisper of not wanting them. It was they who simply presumed she wouldn't like them, based on their own narrow-minded, prejudiced assumptions. They were not her true friends, but rather gatekeepers of her emotional freedom. I once believed her actions stemmed from her usual style, an innocent quirk. But as grim truths unraveled, that assumption proved anything but harmless. I discovered it was merely another insidious thread in their tangled web of manipulation. Many of you urged me to abandon her, to flee, yet such a profound break is simply not an option for my heart. We are not parting ways, not entirely. However, our wedding has been abruptly postponed. And here I will reveal the chilling reasons behind this decision. A few of you, with piercing clarity, illuminated a glaring oversight in my perception. The non-cousin friend, Ray, might harbor secret feelings for my fiancé. To confess, I'd always perceived their trio as an indivisible entity, a collective unit, never truly scrutinizing their individual behaviors or hidden motives. But after absorbing countless insights from your comments, the disturbing possibility began to relentlessly gnaw at my consciousness. The doubt festered until I felt compelled to act. I confronted her directly, asking if any romantic entanglement had ever existed between them. Initially, she dismissed my inquiry with a nervous laugh, attempting to brush it off. But when she recognized the gravity of my steadfast gaze, her facade crumbled. She admitted that indeed, years ago, precisely after her painful high school breakup and just before she departed for college, Ray had brazenly asked her out. Each of them, all four friends, ultimately embarked on journeys to different universities. She harbored absolutely no romantic feelings for him, gently yet firmly declining his advances. To her, he was merely a cherished brother. His reaction, however, was intense. Deep hurt led to him withdrawing completely, refusing to speak for several agonizing months. But eventually, time began its healing and he softened, cautiously returning to her life. That painful chapter was never mentioned again, leaving her to assume his fleeting infatuation had simply faded and he had indeed moved on. Our discussions then shifted, diving deep into the intricate tapestry of her past relationships. Before I entered her life, she had dated 3 men, distinct from her high school boyfriend. Tragically, none of these connections proved to be long-term commitments. The most significant, which spanned nearly 7 months, took place while she was immersed in a demanding project abroad. That particular relationship concluded amicably upon her return home, a bond the trio never even encountered. Her other 2 romantic ventures were shockingly brief, lasting barely 2 months, perhaps even less. She confided how in both painful instances she genuinely believed things were wonderfully promising, only to face an abrupt, chilling silence. They vanished, ghosting her completely, callously. This brutal abandonment left her feeling utterly unwanted, profoundly undesirable. And through it all, the unwavering trio consistently rallied to help her navigate the heartbreak her heartbreaks had left lasting wounds. She confessed that after her high school love and the distant abroad romance, her confidence remained, stubbornly clinging. But then, the double blow of being ghosted, twice in quick succession, utterly demolished her self-esteem. It was a profound, crushing loss. Her deep reluctance to speak of past relationships, I later understood, stemmed from a raw terror. If she revealed her history, she feared I would see the same flaws others had, and then I too would ghost her. This painful insight explained so much about her early behavior with me. When we first started dating, she was strikingly meek. That is the most accurate word. Though naturally soft-spoken, back then she seemed constantly on edge, fearful of being either too much or too little, constantly holding herself back. It took considerable time for her to feel safe and relaxed in my presence. But when she finally did, she blossomed into an entirely different woman, warm, funny, and so genuinely, wonderfully herself. Interestingly, she didn't introduce me to her core trio of friends, even though I, her boyfriend, knew all 4 through mutual connections until we had been together for a substantial period. I had met her parents long before these closest companions, a telling detail. I yearned to be formally introduced to her friends, to fully step into her life as boyfriend. Yet she hesitated. She confided her deep need for certainty about me before letting me into her sacred circle. Her fear was palpable. If we failed, she would again lean on them to mend a shattered heart, a burden she couldn't face. She also confided a secret. She never dared confront those who had ghosted her. The terrifying prospect of cruel, humiliating truths, of seeing her fragile self-confidence crumble further, paralyzed her. The silence felt safer even as it gnawed at her soul. Then fate intervened. One of her mysterious exes, a ghost from her past, materialized in my present, an acquaintance from work. I'd vowed not to pry, to respect her privacy. But the revelations I'd stumbled upon, the insidious doubts poisoning my thoughts, left me no choice. I craved answers, an unbearable hunger for truth consumed me. With apprehension, a knot in my stomach, I contacted him, proposing a meeting. He readily agreed. As we sat face to face, I made my intentions clear: no malice, no accusations, only a desperate yearning for understanding. His words, when they finally came, struck me like a seismic shock, beyond my darkest imaginings. He spoke of his genuine affection for my girlfriend, the profound potential he once saw for their long-term future. Yet despite that initial powerful connection, he had inexplicably chosen to withdraw. The reason for his departure, however, remained shrouded in ominous, unsettling mystery. I kept quiet for a long time, but this story still makes me shiver. He stood unyielding, explaining his abrupt withdrawal. He claimed she suffered from schizophrenia, a condition that left him wholly unprepared for the responsibility of a bond with what he, in cruel ignorance, dubbed a lunatic. My heart plummeted. Stunned doesn't begin to describe the shock that seized me. This was an outrageous, malicious lie. My girlfriend, my partner of 4 years, with whom I've shared a home for nearly 2, does not suffer from schizophrenia. If such a grave illness existed, I'd be acutely, painfully aware. He then revealed his sources, her supposed friends, those viperous stooges. He actually lauded them, commending their good intentions for alerting him to her condition before their connection deepened. These insidious friends had counseled him to ghost her, to vanish without a trace, rather than create a scene with a direct breakup. They painted a terrifying picture. Her condition meant an in-person breakup could trigger erratic, violent behavior. She might lash out, harm him, or worse, inflict self-injury. He expressed profound disappointment, believing she had deliberately concealed such a severe illness. Then, chillingly, he warned me to distance myself from her. A desperate question formed on my lips. During your time together, I pressed, did you observe anything at all asterisk that would even faintly suggest such a grave diagnosis? I needed him to reflect, to see the absurdity. I listened in profound dismay as he adamantly asserted my fiancé was afflicted with schizophrenia. He conceded she displayed no overt symptoms, yet stubbornly clung to his conviction, rationalizing, why would her closest friends, those intimately woven into her life, fabricate such a lie? My blood simmered, raging at the sheer audacity of this outrageous falsehood. I felt a deep, utter contempt. Thankfully, I had the foresight to meticulously record every syllable of that vile conversation. Playing the tape for my beloved fiancé was agony, a crushing burden, knowing it would utterly devastate her. But she deserved the unvarnished truth. Her heart broke. She wept incessantly, inconsolably. Food became anathema. Watching her suffer was unbearable torment, a necessary anguish I endured by her side. Gradually, she began to reclaim her spirit, piecing herself back together. United, our resolve solidified. We would confront those venomous friends. She extended an invitation, crafting a ruse about discussing revisions to our wedding plans. I was certain they arrived, swollen with pride, anticipating she would either call off the engagement or deliver some equally dramatic announcement, believing their vile stunt against me had worked. She hadn't contacted them since that deplorable incident, leading them, no doubt, to conclude their treachery had triumphed. But their smug satisfaction was about to shatter. Instead, with unyielding determination, she told them. My heart pounded as I heard the confrontation unfold. My ex-partner demanded answers, asking why her friends had lied. Their faces twisted with indignation, they denied everything, quickly shifting blame to me. They claimed I was trying to isolate her, to ruin her cherished, lifelong friendships, but my girlfriend had had enough. With a decisive click, she played the recording. The audio echoed their treacherous words. Even after hearing themselves, they clung to denial. Yet my girlfriend was done with their charade. The games were truly over. Finally, under her unwavering gaze, they crumbled. They confessed, admitting they'd always believed she and Ray were destined to be together. Their justification was infuriating. They claimed she, having been friends for so long, was too close to the situation to see how perfectly suited she and Ray truly were. They conceded she had never once uttered a negative word about the heirloom jewelry. But in their twisted minds, they plotted. They believed by fabricating a bitter conflict around that precious jewelry, an item deeply tied to my family, my very culture, I would take it personally. This, they reasoned, would ignite searing tension between us, a vulnerable crack they could savagely exploit to drive an irreparable wedge. Most chillingly, these ugly truths spilled from her cousin's lips. Of the three conspirators, he truly seemed to carry the heaviest burden of guilt, his confession laced with a hint of regret. They showed no remorse, not even a flicker of regret for their prolonged deceit. We stood utterly stunned by the calculated manipulation, a web spun so insidiously. It was baffling. These people truly believed they were good friends, their betrayal masked by feigned camaraderie. My girlfriend, her face a storm of heartbreak and resolve, severed the friendship immediately. Her voice, trembling with righteous fury, ordered them to leave at once and never contact her again. They dared to plead, to argue, but her patience was gone. A chilling warning: the police would be called if they stayed. Only then, defeated, did they finally retreat. This brings me to the latest, most painful outcome. Yes, our wedding is now postponed indefinitely. These weren't mere acquaintances, they were her childhood companions, friends for decades. Their families, too, were deeply intertwined by a long, shared history. One of them, unbelievably, is her own cousin, literal family, steeped in this betrayal. The fallout created a seismic shockwave through our lives. Her parents, learning the ugly truth of their treachery, erupted in righteous fury. Yet they have become unwavering pillars of support, fully endorsing her brave decision to excise these toxic connections. They have stood firmly by us. The news of the trio's dramatic eviction from our wedding and our lives instantly ripped through our social circles. I suspect the Stooges themselves, in wounded pride, broadcast their own undoing. I often reflect on the malicious intentions that caused so much pain. They desperately wanted to spread their deceit, twisting truths to gain sympathy. They relentlessly reiterated their fabricated claims about me being abusive, suggesting I was trying to isolate my partner by removing friends from her life. But a substantial number of our friends were acutely aware of their long-standing disrespectful attitude towards me and didn't believe their narrative. They proactively reached out to us, and we transparently shared our perspective. Now, most of our friends are firmly supporting our decision to implement a no-contact boundary with them. Only a few have adopted a neutral stance, and an even smaller group, despite acknowledging their foolishness, believe they deserve a second chance because of their lengthy friendship. Her younger brother, who is currently dating the girl's cousin, also thinks she overreacted. He believes going no contact with such old friends was too harsh, especially since their sabotage failed and we remain together, so they deserve another opportunity. He is merely 21, and his immaturity often clouds his judgment. Neither of us cares about his opinion, nor the views of anyone who says we're being too harsh by choosing no contact. The trio's parents, especially Ray's, surprisingly showed a flicker of understanding regarding their child's deeply flawed character. Our peace is now paramount, finally secured from their toxic influence. The drama deepens. Ray's parents, who should have been supportive, are also creating noise. To my dismay, they may have known all about the Stooges' deplorable actions. Worse, they were apparently enthusiastic about my girlfriend becoming their future daughter-in-law. This is not happening. Their twisted vision is dead. Over the past 12 grueling hours, we've been relentlessly bombarded with messages. Friends, family, and predictably the Stooges all contributed to this overwhelming digital assault. Most offered invaluable support, a few, disappointingly, were quick to pass judgment. The toxic trio messages my girlfriend constantly. We last checked, nearly 80 unread messages. She hasn't read one. Her resolve is fierce. She wants nothing to do with them ever again. Should this disturbing behavior persist, we will actively pursue a restraining order. We're assessing the legal grounds, but we will explore every option for protection. I believe the immediate worst is now behind us, but the aftermath still remains messy. My girlfriend, with immense courage, wants individual therapy, and we've both agreed to couples counseling. We love each other deeply. We are committed to doing the arduous work. We just need things to settle down a bit more before we can truly move forward. This chapter must close, allowing us to heal and rebuild this betrayal. It still haunts me. My girlfriend's childhood friends, a trusted trio, ruthlessly conspired to shatter our love. They maliciously spread lies, even telling one of her exes she had schizophrenia. Their cruelty escalated. They tried to stir conflict over heirloom wedding gifts, hoping to drive a wedge between us to poison our bond. When I confronted an ex playing a damning recording of his claims, the truth devastated my girlfriend. Her world crumbled before my eyes. It was agonizing, yet it fortified our resolve. We had to push forward with the wedding. Their malice would not win. The best part, the profound relief, is that these venomous individuals will never be groomsmen. My girlfriend, with quiet strength, replaced her maid of honor with a loyal friend. The treacherous trio is now excluded from our wedding party, uninvited from the wedding entirely, a rightful ban extending to their families. We may even remove her younger brother if his yapping about our overreaction persists. We'll face that choice. I feel lighter, a heavy burden lifted, but my girlfriend is deeply hurting. She puts on a brave face, yet true healing will take time. I pray therapy aids her and us both in mending from this profound betrayal. My fiancé, devastated, finally confronted her so-called friends. With cold hearts, they admitted their true, insidious motive. They wanted her to abandon me and instead choose Ray, one of their own. This betrayal cut deeper than any knife. She severed ties with them instantly, completely. Our wedding, once a joyful anticipation, is now regrettably postponed, but our bond remains unbroken. We are committed to therapy, determined to heal and move forward, far from that toxic trio and their scheming families. The past few days have been a whirlwind of emotion, a storm we never anticipated. Though we've gone no contact, we haven't blocked their numbers just yet. We're deliberately waiting until next weekend, affording them ample opportunity to further dig their own graves. Every vile message, every desperate plea will be meticulously documented for posterity before we finally cut them off forever. We're also diligently exploring legal avenues. In due time, we intend to send cease and desist letters, building a compelling case for defamation and slander against them. It's only been a handful of days, and so much has transpired with such speed. We desperately need a moment to calmly consider our next crucial steps. We already shared the incriminating recording within a common friends group chat. If that recording finds its way onto social media, well then so be it. Let the truth unfold for all to see. To those who doubt the veracity of our agonizing ordeal, I assure you, this nightmare is terrifyingly real. I held my breath, bracing myself to share this story, a revelation many found shocking. Some called it fiction, others a creative exercise, but to me it was my truth laid bare for all to see. To those who followed my previous posts, I simply say enjoy this next chapter now. The outpouring of support was immense. One comment, however, resonated deeply, touching a raw nerve. "Wow, what an update," it began, expressing sorrow for my girlfriend's struggles but also relief that our reality was finally acknowledged. Delaying our wedding, an agonizing decision, felt right. We couldn't tie the knot until she found a better place mentally, a place of peace. I yearn for a future where our only update is of a joyous wedding, perfect in every way. But here's what truly struck me, a commenter's insightful observation about my girlfriend's behavior. She handles confrontation in a way that, as they described, reminds me so much of myself. This stranger's story echoed our own difficulties. She shared her late diagnosis of ADHD, often overlooked in females, and its link to rejection sensitivity disorder (RSD). The description of RSD, the intense emotional pain triggered by perceived rejection or criticism, was eerily similar to how I've witnessed my girlfriend react. It was a revelation, a potential piece of the puzzle I hadn't considered. Could she be suffering from this too? The thought has lingered, an avenue worth exploring as we navigate her path to healing. I realize now how much understanding could change everything. We've come a long way since the initial struggles, but this insight offers new hope. I finally grasped the deep roots of my intense reactions to confrontation. This clarity, though painful, is vital, offering a new, haunting perspective. Your kind wishes and suggestions are valued. I'll share them, hoping she discusses them with her therapist, seeking vital support. All this in just 3 days. A lifetime packed into 72 hours. Yes, it's terribly true. The speed was truly unsettling. Most searing discussions, revealing raw, agonizing truths, happened the day I first sought help, tearing open old wounds. I'd always known one of her ex-partners dwelled in my social circle. I hesitated to snoop, yet the urgent truth demanded release. I investigated fully. The very next morning we met him. The vile lies, insidious betrayals poured from his mouth like a toxic stream of poison. Events snowballed relentlessly. That night, fueled by righteous, burning anger, we confronted the cruel deceivers, their faces a mask of fear. I wished to wait to allow calm, but she wouldn't. Her anger, a tempest, an untamed force, demanded immediate release. She unleashed it all. Her wrath, a devastating, uncompromising blow, shattered their deception, leaving wreckage. I pour my turmoil into these desperate words. Did I tell the ex he'd callously abandoned a good woman due to those lies? I did. I exposed his colossal error, her undeserved, agonizing pain. But his response was chillingly apathetic. He merely shrugged, a dismissive gesture of profound detachment. Her suffering seemed utterly irrelevant to him, a problem he'd deftly dodged. He had spent time with I have long reflected on my fiancée's past. I never saw any obvious signs of distress or deception in her history, choosing instead to trust her friend's accounts. From my perspective, his loss was undeniably my truly profound gain. Recently, a thought was presented. What if my fiancé and I simply eloped? It was suggested there was no need for external opinions to jeopardize our blossoming relationship. Honestly, that idea initially struck me as wonderfully liberating. Yet, being an Indian man, I faced a significant struggle convincing my family to abandon the notion of a grand, traditional Indian wedding. While I hold immense love for my culture and heritage, both my fiancé and I came to a heartfelt agreement. A simple Christian ceremony would resonate far more deeply with us than enduring 3 to 4 days of extravagant rituals and ancient traditions. But here's the rub. Eloping would profoundly disappoint both sets of our parents. They have been unwavering in their support for us, and causing them such sorrow is something we desperately want to avoid.